Welcome to episode 168 of From the Shed End. The podcast is back. How you doing, first of all, Theo? How's things?
I'm good. Yeah, it feels a bit weird now that football is definitely kind of on pause for a bit. No more Women's Euros, no more Club World Cup. I do say that I do like a bit of break from football from time to time. That being said, I've got my pre-season tickets to the Leverkusen and Milan friendlies, which are only, I think, 2 weeks away now.
Yep.
So looking forward to watching some live football back at Stamford Bridge.
Yeah.
I was going to say I'm happy it's Friday. We're not recording this on a Friday. It's on a Wednesday for once. But yeah, a couple more days to go for the week. But yeah, I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I think, as always, it's just, it's a busy sort of period for me, as you know. I think I said it last week with the summer holidays for the schools, but no, good. I'm sort of counting down. I'll be honest. I'm watching. I won't tell you what game I'm watching now, but I am watching a match as we speak. I shall not name them, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, the Football League's back this weekend. The Scottish SPL's back as well. So there's a lot of football to get back into. Chelsea are back in a week's time. The 7th of August is our first pre-season. We're going to talk about Cobham later in this episode. But before we do that, make sure you subscribe to the channel. You let us know your thoughts. If you're part of the live stream, we're recording this live on YouTube as well. So if you're part of that, make sure you subscribe. You get involved in the chat. And also the Linktree link is in the description on audio and visual. So there's been a lot that's happening last couple of weeks. I mean, we speak every day, but I mean, for the listeners, this is there's some good and bad, I think, in a lot of what's happened in the last 7 days or so. I think it'd be good. Obviously, let's kick off with the transfer news first of all, because we do know that Joao Felix has now moved to Al Nassr, which was a deal that came out of the blue. I mean, he was on his way to Benfica. Portugal was clearly interested, wanted him, but it looks very likely that he's gone over there to maybe make a bit of money and play with Ronaldo and come back to European football. What's your thoughts on Joao Felix? Is it our loss? Have we lost the player that we potentially needed to retain at Chelsea?
I do feel a bit bad for Joao Felix and kind of how Chelsea have treated him, because clearly, we've said it repeatedly on this podcast, he wasn't a player that Maresca wanted. He was more of a player that the club and the board decided to bring in to facilitate the sale of Gallagher to Atletico Madrid. Otherwise, it felt like Maresca was very kind of happy with the options he had as number 10 kind of position in Nkunku and Cole Palmer, and that became even more kind of apparent when he got that lack of game time he had. He was kind of part of that Conference League squad that played in the games against Noah, Shamrock, Panathinaikos, but very rarely did he feature in the Premier League, or he would just come off the bench. I felt like there was a plan initially when he came off the bench against Wolves and scored with Neto assisting. You felt like it was that kind of like Netflix, as they were calling them, that little duo. And you felt like maybe Maresca had a plan for it, for the two of them after all. But in the end, it didn't really work out. And he was kind of a victim of this bringing players in to facilitate moves elsewhere, this kind of FFP, and also almost trying to bring players in the hope that they become good. But yeah, then in January 2025, he joined AC Milan on loan. I think a couple months into the loan, Milan didn't want to make it permanent, which would have been a shame, because I feel like Milan is a great club, very historic. And then when the links to his childhood club, or where kind of it all started for him, Benfica, he still has on his Instagram bio, his Instagram handle, he still has number 79, which is the number he wore at Benfica. You felt like that was kind of a match made in heaven, back in Portugal, back at his boyhood club, and back in the Champions League as well. But then out of nowhere, Al Nassr come in, offer a lot of money, and I think his temptations are kind of lured towards Saudi Arabia, a reunion with Cristiano Ronaldo. Apparently, Ronaldo did kind of call him to kind of try to persuade him to join Al Nassr, and in the end, we've agreed a 26.2 million fee, with add-ons potentially rising, I think, to between 43 and 50 million, which is good money. And if you kind of combine that with the 55 million loan fee we got from AC Milan, I think we're making a profit on Joao Felix for a player who was only there for 6 months. I'm sad, because I think I've always liked Felix. I've always seen a lot of potential in him. He's come on and has an impact. But unfortunately, we just didn't see it enough at Chelsea. And that's not on a Felix kind of fault. I think it's just kind of where he fitted into the system. And also, given in those first 6 months, Cole Palmer was just unplayable at the time. So I do feel sad. I do wish him the best and in Saudi Arabia. And I've also, you kind of look at guys like John Duran, the door is still open for him to come back to Europe, maybe in a year and a half, 2 years. So I definitely feel like this is not the last we'll see of Joao Felix in the Premier League or in Europe.
I think it's a good move for him. I think this is a move where, look, I mean, he's still young. You know, I think it's a win-win. I think we've made a good profit on the deal. I think, like you said, you know, the only reason we theoretically brought him back in was for Conor Gallagher to go to Atletico Madrid. We wanted the pure profit from Conor Gallagher's move to Spain. But I just feel I think the thing that really hurt Joao Felix was that £100 million move a couple of years ago. I think that just left a lot of people expecting a lot more from him. And at the time when he went, he was so young still. It was a massive fee at the time, you know, one of the biggest, I think, like close to a world record transfer fee at the time for him. So I don't think we've seen the best of him yet. I still think he's got plenty of time to come back and try do something in European football. We have to remember as well, I think it's Jorge Jesus, I think is the manager as well in Al Nassr. So again, that's probably a deciding factor. He's going over there. You know, he'll have some form of familiarity with certain players and the coaches and the manager there. And the money as well. You have to remember the money is good money in Saudi Arabia. The Saudi Pro League pays well. It's a 2-year deal. We've got a sell-on clause added to that as well. So again, good bit of business from Chelsea. I don't think it's a bad deal. I don't think it's a bad deal. I think he was never. I suppose the question I'll ask you is, how was he going to prize himself into the Chelsea squad? I don't think he does.
How does he come back into Chelsea?
How would he have been able to, I don't know, move Cole Palmer out of the team and become a regular starter? I don't think he does that. So I think this move makes sense for him to go.
It does, but then at the same time, we're looking to sign another number 10 in Xavi Simons. So it kind of doesn't make sense from that perspective is Xavi Simons a big upgrade on Joao Felix? Personally, I haven't watched much of Simons. I know we're going to talk about him in a bit, but I don't think so. Is Joao Felix a massive downgrade or upgrade on Nkunku? I don't think so either. So it kind of just feels like we're playing kind of musical chairs with these attacking players. Same thing with Madueke, bringing in for 2.5 years. Does it work? Does it not work out? If it doesn't work, you kind of you sell him. So I just kind of like struggling to see what our strategy is with these attacking players. Same thing with Jackson. I think his future is a big doubt right now, and it looks like we might try to sign another number 9 potentially. I would not be surprised if we went into the market and tried to sign another attacking player. There's talks now resurfacing with Garnacho as well, which I think we're both on the same page. We would much rather not see that happen. But yeah, he definitely wouldn't have got into the starting lineup ahead of Palmer. But then if Joao Felix can't do that for Palmer, does that mean I struggle to see if Xavi Simons is a direct starter either? And I would not be surprised if maybe in a year and a half time we're recording an episode and talking about Xavi Simons' future being a doubt because of lack of game time. So this is why I'm really happy when we link to these amazing players and these big players, but we also have to be realistic and think like how they fit into this team. Will they get the game time? I know this new format of Champions League, there's more football, but at the same time, every game's important and you want to win it, whether that's playing Red Star Belgrade or if you're playing Barcelona. I do have a bit of question marks, and I do feel like this Felix move should spell kind of alarm bells or ring alarm bells to fans and the board thinking like, all right, we signed this guy, it hasn't worked. Would it work for this guy now? But yeah, he definitely probably wouldn't have started ahead of Palmer. And I think especially after his Club World Cup performances and, you know, him being on loan and not being in that Club World Cup squad, I think they kind of made sense to sell him. And I would have loved to see him back in Europe, back at Benfica. But like you said, the money kind of talks in Saudi Arabia. And I think his plans maybe to go there, play Ronaldo, play under Jorge Jesus, and maybe come back to Europe in a couple of years' time.
I think so. It's a 2-year deal. I mean, I'd assume maybe we have to see him get sold in 12 months' time to activate some of those clauses in the deal. I'm not sure. I don't know. But either way, I think this is for me, it's a good deal. It's a good deal. He only scored 3 goals in 19 appearances for AC Milan. So I know he's not in the team as the main goal scorer. And he did have some really good games for AC Milan, the games that I got to watch. So again, I'm not saying he played badly for them, but I do think going over to the Saudi Pro League, maybe finding that form of confidence again and coming back to European football and being the Joao Felix that a lot of fans expected him to be very early on in his career, I think that might help. But we shall see. In the chat, we've got Pepe, Chelsea fan, saying proper Chelsea. Thanks for joining in on the live stream on YouTube. Let's move on because we have got some more transfer news to talk about. Of course we have, because it's Chelsea and we love to sign players and we love to sell players. This feels like a big. This next two feel like a big sort of talking point, because let's start with the defensive options at the moment. Joao Hato is currently an Ajax player. Personal terms seem to have been agreed for the player. Good option as a left back. We'll talk, maybe coincide this with Ben Chilwell, who hasn't got many clubs looking for him at the moment. But what do you think on Joao Hato? Good signing, 40 million or in that region. Ajax seem to be holding out for a little bit more. Do you think this deal gets done within the next couple of days or so?
I think it's a matter of days now. I'd be very surprised if he's not a Chelsea player by the end of the week. And I think this is kind of the last kind of piece in the puzzle we need to kind of have this kind of complete squad of players that can start and a player that can fill in terms of backup. Because right now we have that for every position, but we don't have that for left back. After Renato Vega is likely to get sold now to Atletico Madrid and Ben Chilwell has been frozen out of the team, then we need cover at left back. If Cucurella gets injured, it could really derail our season. Fortunately, he's always very fit, which is a blessing for us, and he's also such an important player. So as long as Hato's aware that maybe he's going to come in and play backup, I think it's a perfect move, because 40 million euros in today's market is good money. I think you're probably going to look at that type of money for a player of his quality and his age. I'm not going to lie, I haven't watched much of the Dutch league, so I don't know, what he's like as a player, and I can't really tactically discuss how he's going to fit in Chelsea. But what I do know is clearly, I think we were linked to him in January. There's a lot of other clubs, I think, that were linked to him. Seems like we've agreed personal terms. He's a versatile 19-year-old defender. And I think Fabrizio Romano's latest is that he's got outstanding confidence that both clubs are going to finalise the deal. And Chelsea are optimistic that the transfer will be completed soon. So yeah, it seems like it's just a matter of time. And I do see him maybe filling in the cup competitions, and occasionally when Cucurella might need a rest. And if he does kind of shine, there's nothing to say that he might even be better than Cucurella. But I was listening to your live recording this morning, and I'm on agreement with you that Cucurella right now, based on form, is the best left back in the world. And I think Hato is probably aware of this as well. So I think as long as Hato knows that he might be playing second fiddle and maybe playing like 20 to 30% of the matches throughout the season at left back, then I think it's a good move. But again, maybe a player at 19 will want more game time eventually. So I say it again, but I would not be surprised if in a year and a half, 2 years, we're talking about Hato wanting more game time and he's frustrated with the lack of game time he's getting at Chelsea. We're talking about an exit for him. But sometimes we do have to kind of bear in mind that these players will fill in for like a temporary time. But 19 years old, a lot of potential. He's young. He's still going to learn a lot. Ajax have a reputation for developing brilliant talent. You look at Delete, De Jong, Ziyech. I'm not going to say that previous goalkeeper because he's absolutely rubbish. But a lot of other players as well. So yeah, I think it's a good signing. And I'm looking forward to seeing maybe how he plays. And hopefully we can get him into the squad ahead of those 2 preseason games so he can get some game time and gel with the team ahead of the games against Leverkusen and AC Milan.
I think I agree with you 100%. As I was saying on the live stream earlier, that I think he's coming in not necessarily to be number one. And I think he knows that. I think essentially he knows his game time, especially, this season coming up, will be limited, because I think he's 19. I mean, I think I said before, I think he has captained the Ajax team before. I think he's captained, I think he, even on a national stage, I think he might have captained the national team at some point. I'm not sure, but I mean, he's coming in, he's 19. He's not coming in as one of those 19-year-olds that we expect to go out on loan. I think he's coming in because we know that, like you said before, the new format of the Champions League is different now. It's not just the 4 teams in the group. This is where we need a big squad. We have cup competitions that we want to be ambitious in this season. I think that I was watching the League Cup last night with Barnet and Newport, and I was thinking, you want to go and win that. I know, even though it's I think that was like the early stages. That wasn't even round 1. I think it was to qualify to get into it. But you want to win that. It shows how much those early games mean something to you. When we're playing a lesser team, so to speak, and then you eventually get to Wembley, you still want to win that trophy. The Carabao Cup is so overlooked, in my opinion. The FA Cup is now being overlooked a lot more as well. So I think we need a big squad, and I think he comes in, he adds a lot of depth. Cucurella cannot play every single game. He pretty much done that last season. He can't play every game because one, he'll get ran into the ground, and two, you're looking at a hefty injury. If he gets a big injury that keeps him out for 3 or 4 months, World Cup's coming up next year as well. He needs rest. He's going to need a lot of rest, and that's where I think Hato comes in. I wanted to talk quickly about Ben Chilwell, because I think Ben Chilwell, as I said before on the live stream, currently doesn't have. There's not many clubs or any clubs at the moment that are interested in Ben Chilwell. Is there a case and argue there to say that maybe he actually stays at the club and he becomes either the third choice, or if this Hato deal doesn't get done, then Ben Chilwell theoretically would be the understudy to Cucurella?
Yeah, I mean, never say never with football. I remember this time last year I said he'd never play a game again for Chelsea, and he made that cameo against Barrow, I think.
Yeah,
which came as a bit of a surprise.
He was captain as well, wasn't he?
He might have taken a captain's armband off Reece James or Enzo Fernandez. Yeah. One thing I will say about Ben Chilwell, he's the elite professional. I know he's on big money at the club, so maybe he won't moan and whinge, but he hasn't moaned once. He hasn't kind of complained. He hasn't put any cryptic posts on Instagram or social media complaining about being frozen out and his lack of game time. He went out on loan in January to Crystal Palace, and I actually thought that was quite a successful loan. Helped them win the FA Cup, got some game time. I think he might have scored 1 or 2 goals for them in the process as well.
A medal. Got the winner's medal.
Got the winner's medal, exactly. So I'm sure he sees it as a successful loan. I think after Maresca's comments last summer saying like he doesn't tactically fit into my system, I'd find it very hard for Maresca to backtrack on that and bring him back into the team. And especially now the Hato links, he would end up being third choice, I think, rather than second or first. But we did talk about the hefty kind of schedule and congested fixtures. There will be a lot of games. Will not be surprised if someone gets injured and he kind of comes back into it. But it seems like the main blocker for a club wanting to sign him is his wages. He's on a lot of money. And I think we were partially playing his wages while he was at Crystal Palace. I don't think many Premier League teams outside maybe the traditional top 4 or top 6 could afford his wages. So he might have to consider his options abroad. I've always liked Chilwell. I think he's done the job. And I was very surprised last summer when Maresca came in and kind of wanted more Vega as the left back with Cucurella as the main guy. Was even playing Gusto at left back ahead of Ben Chilwell at times. But yeah, I just don't see a future where Ben Chilwell ever puts on a Chelsea shirt. I said exactly that last summer, but this time more than ever, I just think it's very unlikely. I think he was part of that kind of bomb squad with Joao Felix, Sterling, Disasi, Broja, that all returned to Cobham early July and kind of were told to find new clubs. Wasn't taken on the Club World Cup, probably won't be in the squads for those pre-seasons on the 8th and the 10th of August. So yeah, I think he's got a future. Definitely, he's a really good player. He's helped us win the Champions League, won the FA Cup last season with Palace, but his future's not with Chelsea, unfortunately.
It's a shame. It is a shame because I think he is, like you said, the forever professional. He doesn't, like you said, doesn't put out any cryptic posts. I don't think he's on that much money. I'm sure he's only on like 170 or 180. I know it's obviously a lot of money in the grand scheme of things, but when you look at other players, is across the Premier League, I don't think he's that bad.
It's a lot of money for the current wage structure, I think. So kind of the average player at Chelsea is on around 100k, so it's almost like double the amount that they're on. But yeah, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that much.
It's not that much. I think there's clubs out there. My worry is that why aren't clubs wanting him? I'm not saying that a deal should get done straight away, but why aren't clubs sort of inquiring about him, sniffing around to see if he's available, talking to his agent? It doesn't even seem like any of those sort of conversations are happening. And maybe we'll accelerate those sort of negotiations when we get the Hato deal done. If we get it done, and when we get it done, maybe we'll start thinking, there is really no future for you. You have to get something done. But I agree with you. He's such a really good player, really, really good player. We spoke about Xavi Simons before around obviously Christopher Nkunku and Cole Palmer. This deal, it feels like it's been done for some time. RB Leipzig have clearly, got the money that they want. The personal terms have not been an issue. It feels almost like we're waiting for the Hato deal to be done to announce both. I called it double Dutch earlier. I'm going to stick with double Dutch. Do you think I mean, we kind of alluded to it before that we don't think he might necessarily be an upgrade on what we currently have, but his numbers are really good. You know, for PSV, I think it was 19 goals. You know, he missed a lot of games last season for PSG, but still put up some really good numbers and assists as well. I think he fits in. I kind of, not that I disagree, but I think he definitely fits in with the squad and how Maresca want them to play, and that sort of counter-attacking, pressing forward, you know, from the front football. I think he brings something to that. What's your thoughts on Xavi Simons? The deal looks like it's imminent. Can he come in before the preseason, our mini preseason starts?
Yeah, I expect this one to get wrapped up fairly soon. I think Fabrizio Romano noted that the deal has been a bit quieter, but there's no breakdown in talks, and Chelsea remain confident that negotiations are progressing positively. I like that kind of like double Dutch thing, because I can actually see it from like a marketing perspective. Maybe they're hoping to announce the two at the same time with some kind of promotional video. And maybe the two of them are going to be housemates in London, two Dutch teammates as well. But I mean, this guy is clearly a bright player, because he's played, I think, for Barcelona, PSG, PSV, and RB Leipzig, and he's only 22 years old. And again, I don't watch much of Bundesliga or the Dutch league, but from what I saw of him at the Euros last summer,
he was amazing.
He was amazing. And that goal he scored against England was world class. Yep. And I think he's in demand as well. There's a lot of clubs that are wanting him. I think PSG are hoping to re-sign him, maybe, or Arsenal, City, United. So it's almost like if we don't sign him, then we might be strengthening a rival, because they'll be getting his signature. But at the same time, I just still really struggle to see where he fits into our squad or our lineup, because Palmer's cemented that number 10 role for himself by the looks of it.
Yeah.
And Xavi Simons' main position is the 10 from what I've seen and how he lines up with Leipzig. He is quite versatile, so I would not be surprised if maybe he plays a bit more as a hybrid winger 10, which we've seen at times with Enzo Fernandez and Cole Palmer as well.
Yep.
But yeah, good player, really good player. And maybe by signing him, there's a plan maybe to sell Nkunku, to sell Jackson, to kind of free up some space in the squad. But yeah, I really, again, though, I kind of hope if we do sign him, it's not like the day before the Palace game, but we get him in the squad ahead of those when the players return to Cobham on August 4th, and he gets the gel of the team, and Maresca gets to work with him. Again, though, I think one of these players that's only 22, so it might take him a bit of time to hit the ground running. And when you get a transfer fee of 60 million or 70 million, there's going to be high expectations, which is normal. But we do need to bear in mind that he's not the finished product, in my opinion. And the transition at times from the Bundesliga to the Premier League, I've said it before, it hasn't always worked out in our favor. You look at Havertz, you look at Werner, you look at Nkunku. So I think the last 10 we signed from Leipzig was Nkunku. So it doesn't always work out. So we have to be kind of patient with that and aware that maybe Bundesliga football is a very good league, but the style of play is very different to the Premier League. And the Premier League is almost a different ballpark for some of these attacking players. So yeah, exciting prospect, exciting player, but I think only time will tell if he can be like how he fits into the system and if he'll be a guaranteed starter as well. Yep.
It's a good assessment. It is a good assessment. Like you, I'm very mindful that we haven't had successful transfers, especially from RB Leipzig, and it hasn't always worked out. But I do look at these numbers, and we're showing these on the YouTube live at the moment for the audio listeners of the podcast. But PSV, as I said, 22-23 season, 22 goals, 11 assists in all comps. That's in total of 48 games, 19 in the league for PSV that season. Again, Bundesliga 23-24 season, he's able to get 10 goals, all comps, 13 assists, 8 in the league, 11 assists. So, 2 in the championship as well, 2 goals out of the 8 games. Last season, dropped off a little bit, but I think that's down to the injuries. He only played total of 33 matches, 25 in the Bundesliga, 10 goals, 7 assists in the league, 11 goals, all competitions. So I definitely agree with you 100%. The stats read for good reading, and can you do it on a cold night in Burnley, as they say? I mean, look, I think he's a good player. I think he's a very solid player. I think he's someone that I remember looking at when he was at Barcelona and thinking, he looks like a very good player. He's going to go on to be something amazing. And like you said, those goals that he scored against, or the goal that he scored against England was brilliant. He's a solid player. It'd be interesting how Maresca gets the best out of him Cole Palmer, Gittins. We've got to remember we've got Gittins in the squad as well. So there's a lot of youngsters coming through. We've got Estevao. Yeah, we've got him to come in as well.
We've got Quenda coming in next summer.
Giovanni Quenda.
I think more of a right winger or a left winger. But yeah, Xavi Simons, like you mentioned, his stats are good. And I think he was in La Masia Academy at Barcelona, then was signed by PSG in 2019. Made 7 appearances for the first team at Paris between 2021 and 2022. Then I think was sold to PSV, re-signed by Paris to then be loaned to Leipzig before the move was made permanent. So I'm thinking maybe PSG had like some kind of buyback clause where they kind of saw him maybe as a possibility to resell him at a profit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, all those clubs and he's only 22. I think there's not many players that have played for such big teams and 4 different leagues and have had the success that he's had. So I definitely think he's got a bright future, but I just do struggle to see how all these attacking players are going to be satisfied with their game time, especially the 2 that I've got so much promise and hype around, Quenda and Estevao. I really much rather we almost focus on their development than bring in more talent and at big transfer fees as well.
I hope we're not here, in 2 or 3 seasons time and we're sort of sat here wondering what if, and we've sold them on very much like Joao Felix. I hope we do end up with some sort of quality, because you mentioned Estevao, you mentioned Kendry Paez as well. We've just sent, I think, Asugo out on loan, another player that's just come in but gone straight out. Amagu, I think, played the best part of a couple of minutes for us. So I think the club need to kind of slow things down a little bit and just allow us to almost find the best balance of the squad for Maresca in order to be successful. I really do. Let's try and get some comments through here. We've got something coming through here from Gaming Emporium Trinidad. Good morning from Trinidad Blue Bloods as well. Emika, good morning to you as well, wherever you are in the world. Rich Moneymakers is back. He's back for the second stint of the live stream on YouTube. Big up legends. There were senior members discussing Reece James' contract. He's on 250 grand a week. I will keep you updated when I know more. Win Stanley doing a presentation to the owners on Garnacho. A lot of people are fed up with you guys. What do you think about Garnacho before we move on? I mean, it's a deal that looks very likely it could happen.
I mean, I just spoke about all the attacking depth we have or we're going to have in the next, at the end of this summer and the next year. And reports are suggesting that Chelsea want to sign both Hato and Simmons with possible addition target of Alexandre Garnacho later in the window. I'm against this one. I just think he's someone, I think, with a relatively big ego. I think we saw that when he was talking to the media without kind of the permission of Manchester United. There is definitely a good player there, but I think there's a reason as well that Manchester United are looking to sell him, and he wasn't taken on their preseason tour. And we saw it with Sancho at times last year. It worked for us occasionally, but he wasn't willing to sign permanently given his wages. And I feel like if we do sign Garnacho, let it be a loan. Let us trial kind of how it is. Let United maybe pay a part of his wages. But then again, I don't want to be giving game time to a player that we're most likely not going to sign. Or, but clearly, our Win Stanley, like Rich Moneymaker says, if he's doing a presentation to the owners, he sees some potential in him. He sees like this guy being the next big thing. But we've seen it at glimpses in the Premier League, but it's just consistently, it just hasn't been good enough. And I do wonder if it's maybe the ecosystem he's in at United being very toxic and he's not able to perform there, or if he comes to Chelsea, maybe he'll be able to really blossom into the player that he hopes to be. But personally, I'd much rather just focus on Estevao, focus on Quenda, focus on Xavi Simons, focus on Gittins, focus on Pedro Neto, who's Tyreek George as well. Yeah, there's so many players that I think we should prioritize and focus on their development before we buy. I don't want to call him someone else's rubbish, but someone else's.
But it is
kind of I mean, he's looking to be offloaded. He's not in the Asian preseason tour right now. But yeah, I'd much rather we just avoid this one and let maybe a Napoli or another club pick him up rather than us.
I do worry that we'll end up with him, because I think that there's, as I said before last week as well, that this story just isn't going away. This story's not it's not moving on. And the fact that we're still talking about him now is a bit of a worry. 30 million, does that entice you in a little bit more?
Not really, no. I mean, we got Sancho on loan and we were going to sign him for 25 million and we kind of opted out. So 30 million or even on a free, I just don't think we need him. And even last summer when we got Sancho on loan, I think we were all both relatively pleased. We saw it kind of like a low risk and kind of it was going to work for us. But this, we just signed Pedro Neto, I think the week before. We had Nkunku, we had Palmer, we had Madueke at the time, we had Tyreek George. I think we're both confused as to why we signed him in terms of how he would fit as in the squad. And I think it's the same with Garnacho. It almost just seems like we're getting very spoiled and happy signing all these attacking players. But realistically, 30 million or not, I just think we just stay away and we avoid this transfer at all costs.
I think for me, I think if you used to ask United fans, they would be quick to get him off the books. And that's always a telltale sign for me. If a club are willing to get rid of a player so quickly, then you have to ask yourself, what is it that the player's not doing or is doing? You know, for me, prime example, Marc Cucurella has been offered a new contract, or is about to be offered a new contract because Al Nassr came sniffing around Chelsea. Now, if Garnacho was that good, surely United would be doing everything in their power to keep him at the club. There's not many. Maybe Cole Palmer is a very anomaly to this rule, but there's not many players that clubs will not fight for in this day and age. And if someone isn't willing to fight for you at a football club, I always have to question, what is it? Why is that? Why is the club not doing everything in their power to keep you there? Again, Trent is an anomaly to that rule because he was always going to go to Real Madrid, but
that's a bit different. I feel like he'd won it all at Liverpool, wanted maybe a new challenge, wanted the Spanish lifestyle, wanted to be reunited with Bellingham. I would use Madueke more as a case because Madueke, like you just mentioned, like if we're not willing to fight for him and Chelsea fans were almost celebrating his transfer for 52 million, then you can go in a way. But I think that there are a few anomalies, but mainly when you very rarely do you see it from one Premier League club to another, I feel.
It does worry me. It just make me wonder, what are they seeing at United? Maybe you're right. Maybe it's a toxic environment that he's in. But Chelsea's not that much better. Let's be honest. It has been a bit up and down at Chelsea over the last couple of seasons there. So we'll have to see how the Hato deal happens. Xavi Simons as well. Hopefully, according to Ben Jacobs and like you said, Fabrizio Romano, those deals will be done by the end of this week. Hopefully in time for the preseason. But as I just mentioned, Marc Cucurella, the best left back in the world. Let's have it right. He's hopefully going to be offered a new improved contract at Chelsea for all his hard work last season and throughout the Club World Cup. What's your thoughts? I mean, you reported on this on our Twitter account yesterday, but what's your thoughts on it? It seems about right that he deserves something, doesn't he? Yeah,
based on form, for me, he's the best left back in the world. I feel maybe Theo Hernandez a couple of years ago would have come close, but his form's kind of dropped off a cliff lately. And I feel like the reports probably come after he was being linked with interest from Al Nassr. Supposedly, Ronaldo had a desire to sign him, so maybe Ronaldo wanted him in his team. But after that kind of little rumor popped up, it seems like Chelsea are planning to offer Cucurella a new contract and view him as an essential part of their project under manager Maresca. I think it might have been this time last year we recorded a video like who's the most important player to Chelsea squad. I think maybe you had Cucurella, had Caicedo, or the other way around, but none of us said Palmer. I feel because Cucurella is just what he does to this team in that inverted left back role is so unique. He's so consistent now with his performances. He's popped up with goals at big moments as well, like against Manchester United. We speak a lot about the Colwell goal against Forest or the Neto goal against Fulham, but that Cucurella goal against United also helped us get top four into the Champions League. He has 3 years remaining on his current deal, but it's understood he's regarded as a long-term empathic presence at Stamford Bridge. He's really liked amongst the fans, the players. I think he's on holiday currently with Enzo Fernandez in Spain. I think they posted a photo of a big paella dish with the two of them together. And I just feel like it's such a journey and adventure it's been for him at Chelsea because his first season didn't go to plan. Then a year later, we were looking to loan him out to Manchester United. If you remember, I think summer 2023. when we had, I think, Maatsen, Chilwell ahead of him in the pecking order. And
it.
then I think midway through that season, he slowly found some form. And then I think Pochettino, back end of that season, was trialing that inverted left-back system, and it seemed to really work for him. But I think he's just such an important presence, and he just seems to also like bring so much energy and joy to the team. He seems to be a bit of the joker, like in the dressing room. The players really like him. And also in that first season, I think you mentioned it on the recording this morning, these players aren't robots. They've got thoughts, they've got feelings, they've got personal lives, things happening behind the scenes. He was going through a lot. I think September, so a month later, he moved to London. His house got burgled, and your safety of your family is the most important thing, and that will really affect you when you leave the house and you travel to Manchester, to Liverpool, to Milan for the Champions League, wherever in the world. And then I think he also found out soon after that his poor son has been diagnosed with autism as well, which as a father is very kind of challenging moments to go through. So I think there was a lot of things happening off the pitch that we almost weren't aware of. And now we realize that all of this happening and kind of what he's been able to accomplish in his 3 years at Chelsea. And now in the player he's become, such a crucial part to the way we play, such a crucial part as well to Spain's success at the Euros last summer. However, I also think this Hato signing is going to be perfect for him. It's going to be healthy competition. So it might even push him to be even better than he currently is.
Agreed.
And it will also give him a bit of a break in the games where he does need a rest and he does need to avoid being injured. But yeah, I think he's definitely deserves a new contract. And I'm also glad now what we're doing, it seems we're offering players this money and these contracts, but they're only going that step above. I think it's 175. We might offer him 200 now. Only when it's actually deserved and it's warranted in a way. We're not just offering crazy money to get them to sign. But yeah, I'm really pleased to see that we're kind of getting him to sign a new contract, and hopefully maybe I'll wait a year or two, but maybe Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo could be the next ones that we look to maybe reward with new contracts. Although I still think they probably got like 6 or 7 years left on their deals, most likely.
I think they have. I think, but it's a good point. It's a good point because I think, one of the things that other clubs haven't done, and again, talk about Trent, talk about Liverpool. You look at the situation now with Alexander Isak. I know he's still got a couple of years left on his deal, but you want to nail down your best players, and you want to make sure that whatever you're doing for them, it benefits the club in the long run as well. So I think for me, it makes perfect sense to have him nailed down to a contract. Hopefully there's a release clause. I think there will be clubs that will want Cucurella in the next couple of seasons. The same for Enzo Fernandez. I think I said before, if the likes of Real Madrid come for Enzo Fernandez, I think it's hard for him to turn that down. So you want your best players to be locked down into contracts, and that's just unfortunately the way football's gone now. Is that you want your best players to be part of the squad. I think he's been one of the most improved players at Chelsea in such a difficult period because. We criticised Sanchez, we've criticised Jackson. Cucurella was part of that criticism as well at some points when he first signed. You talk about Madueke, he's been so everyone. I think even Cole Palmer's had the criticism stick beaten over him a couple of times last season. So I think everyone's had that. The one I think has shown that he's overcome that is Marc Cucurella. And like you said, Teo Hernandez maybe was there or thereabouts, but I feel like Cucurella's trajectory's just gone further and further, and he's just shown why we paid so much money for him and why he was so good for Brighton as well. I agree with you with the competition. I think I look at it from another sort of angle though, that as well is I think if we do get Joao Hato over the line, in the next couple of days, I think that's brilliant for someone to learn from. To see someone that you've got in the team like Marc Cucurella, who has been through hard times at the club, like you said, has had off-field things happen to him, but still managed to play football, won trophies at the club. I think that'll be such a good learning experience from someone who's 19, coming into a very young squad. There's not many leaders in our team. We've said that for nearly 2 seasons now. You look at Reece James, Tosun, obviously Chilwell is there in the background, but there's not many leaders.
No, Bettinelli's gone now, and he was a bit of that father figure. Yeah,
Bettinelli was a big one. So I think that was what I'm hoping we bring Hato in for, and he stays. I don't want to see him go on loan. I want him to learn a lot from Marc Cucurella. But it shows how important he is as part of the project. For the owners to have a phone call come through from Al Nassr, and automatically you shut that rumor down, and you're offering him a new contract the day after. It shows how important he is. But I've got a question for you. Would you say that he's probably more important than keeping Reece James at the club?
Yes, because I think the market for left backs right now is so difficult, and we've got Gusto, we've got Ashampong, who's been linked with a loan to Bournemouth. I do think there's more cover at right back than left back, and like you mentioned, injuries and fitness issues still seem to persist with Reece James. I think he even got injured, in the warm-up for one of the games of the Club World Cup, didn't he?
He did.
So we know Reece James, we know what we're getting now. It's probably, we'll see him fit for 30-40% of the matches throughout the season if we're lucky. And even if we were to be offered silly money by Al Nassr, I'm talking like 100, 120 million for Cucurella, I still think we turn it down, because you could accept that money, but who do you sign to replace a player of his quality right now? There's not many. I'd have said Theo Hernandez a year or two ago, but he's now off to Saudi himself. And I think he's putting a bit of a European chapter behind him after a poor couple of seasons. But yeah, I think left back, so Cucurella, and centre mid and Caicedo, for me, are those two positions and the two players that we just can't afford to lose. And we were laughing. I mean, people were teasing us 2 years ago, saying how Brighton have robbed us, and that they're our favourite customer. Chelsea are their favourite customers, but we've probably the two best signings we made in a very long time.
The best of the bunch out of their team.
It was a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but definitely those two transfers, people aren't really laughing now, and they're definitely two really successful transfers in hindsight.
And they haven't really replaced well. I mean, I know Balaba's there, he's a good player, but you look at McAllister, went to Liverpool. We took Caicedo, took Sanchez, who hasn't had the best of times at Chelsea, but he's improved over the last 6 months, and Marc Cucurella. So they've lost a lot of good players there. Let's go in the chat really quickly. Rich Moneymaker is saying Malo Gusto has now been discussed as on a new contract. Keep updates. Yeah, I'm not sure about Malo Gusto. Gaming Emporium Trinidad saying please hit the like button. So please listen to them. Make sure you smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. West Ham are discussing Sanchez when Stanley didn't want Cucurella, too old. But I repeat, the owners do want some experience. I think they want to retain him. I think the problem is that someone is always going to be above Paul Winstanley at the football club. So he can make the choices, he can make the decisions to a certain degree, but ultimately there's a bigger boss than Paul Winstanley at Chelsea Football Club. So he can have a say. Of course, his role is to look and recruit and bring in the players, but ultimately I think someone above him is always going to make that final call. Rich Moneymakers again in the chat saying, I will warn you, Winstanley loves young. If Winstanley gets his way, it's a nice way of wording it, but if Winstanley gets his way, we would have a team under 24. We've sort of got that already, Theo, I think, as well. We've already got like a young team. I think we've got the lowest, our average age is actually probably around 24. Probably got one of the youngest squads in the Premier League.
Yeah, we do, yeah.
Moises Caicedo will be offered another contract, making it another 9 years. I think they're changing that now, where you can't offer very, very long contracts anymore. So it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. Tosin is staying when Stanley not happy. The owners like Tosin because he hasn't complained about not playing. I think he's played enough games.
I think he's definitely ahead in the pecking order, ahead of Badiashile, and he was ahead of Disasi when Disasi was still around. Yeah. And we know Fofana's similar to Reece James, always injured. So I think he's probably like our third choice centre-back right now, behind Chalobah and Colwell, most likely. And
we have to add this bit into that discussion. He came for nothing. He didn't cost us a penny. And I think that's what the owners like. I think if anything, I think they will try and sell him maybe in a year or two and flip his value. But I'd be surprised if he goes anywhere anytime soon. He's a leader in the club, on and off the field. You can see the relationship he's got with some of the players, almost acting like a father figure for them. So I think he stays.
Yeah, I think the last bit of transfer news, Mike Penders on loan to Strasbourg. Thoughts on that move?
Inevitable. Inevitable. We haven't mentioned Donnarumma, but that's because I'm still hurt about the fact we're not going for him, because the news has come out that apparently he's more linked to United than he is to Chelsea now. But for me, Mike Penders, it's interesting because I felt he potentially because the window doesn't shut till September, is it? I think it's like the first week in September. So I just think you got 2 preseason games, AC Milan by Leverkusen, where you could potentially just give him a run out. Let's just see what he can do. You know, they've probably been watching him last season on loan anyway. I don't know. I think it's a deal. Going to Strasbourg is dangerous, in my opinion. I'll sum it up that way. It can be dangerous because you may never come back to Cobham. That's all I'll say.
No, it's a good assessment. We saw Petrovic, he had the season of his life there, and then he came back and was sold. So I would not be surprised if maybe Penn is slightly younger, so we do see him as like the long-term future. And I think we have to remember Thibaut Courtois had 3 loans at Atletico Madrid before he came back to Chelsea and was our first choice. That being said, I think Maresca seems happy with Sanchez and Jurgensen as his backup. And as much as I would have liked to see him in those friendlies are only a week away from the first game of the season against Palace.
Yeah.
So I don't think we'd be playing any players that are linked with moves away or kind of not going to be part of the Premier League squad for the next season in the friendlies against Leverkusen and Milan. I think it's a good move. I think him, Paez, and Mamadou Sarr. I think Paez has never played in Europe, so I think that loan will do him a world of good. Mamadou Sarr, I personally think he'll never play for Chelsea in his life. I think one of these guys, a bit like a Sugo, a bit like Ugochukwu, we just bought in and will be sold maybe in a year or 2. And then the last one being Penders. I think maybe we'll have an agreement, like we're taking Petrovic back to sell him, but you can get Penders instead. And I think I mentioned it before. Part of the deal initially, I think when we were linked to Mignon, we asked Strasbourg, or we asked Jorgensen to go on loan to Strasbourg, and he said no. So I think maybe this option B was to send Penders there on loan. I'm not against this one. I think he's still very raw and could do with a couple more loans maybe before coming back to Chelsea.
He's only 19, isn't he? Or something,
only 19, yeah. And can you think of any 19-year-old goalkeeper out there who's world class or the first choice at their team?
Not many.
No.
Not many.
I think Donnarumma was
young.
That exception at Milan before he got the move to Paris. He was a giant, but he was young.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not against this one. That being said, if Donnarumma, there's an option, there's a chance we sign him for little money on a free next year, I'll be all over that. Because he's a big upgrade on Sanchez. You can maybe sell either Sanchez or Jorgensen and bring Donnarumma in. But yeah, I think goalkeeper for now, I'm saying it now, I'm not too annoyed, but maybe come midway through the season or end of next season, we might need to get our wallets out and get another goalkeeper in, because we have to remember that last season wasn't perfect from a goalkeeping situation.
No,
we're kind of still in this honeymoon period after the Club World Cup where we're praising Sanchez, but he's not he's not going to win us the Champions League. No, he's not the guy. But good loan move for me.
And we've just sold, I think it's Ishe Samuel Smith to Strasbourg as well. I think that was 8 million. So I don't know much about him. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I do know loads about him, but I just think for the fee, it shows you that the club are willing to sell everything, even the teacups and the seats if they can. So, I do think, it's a good move for him. I think with goalkeepers as well, they can play till they're 40. You could have another 20 years of playing at the very top level. So I hope he comes back. I think my only thing is, does he come back to Chelsea? It'd be interesting if we got like a recall clause in there. Maybe in January things aren't going well for Sanchez or Jurgensen. Do we bring him back? I don't know. Very difficult to bring goalkeepers back mid-season. So we'll have to see how that pans out. But again, thank you very much, Gaming Emporium Trinidad. Very good conversation. Keep at it. Appreciate that 100%. You did mention as well, the club will be returning back to usual on Monday, the 4th of August. Cobham will be full again. There'll be lots of people out there. What's your thoughts very quickly before you wrap up on, obviously, the pre-season games coming back up? The bomb squad's been there for a while, but the full complement of players have had their rest before the club or after the Club World Cup. Business as usual.
Business as usual, but it's definitely been delayed. I mean, I know the Club World Cup was almost like pre-season, but a lot of people mention it's a kind of a continued throughout the 2024-2025 season. So we're definitely returning back to Cobham a lot later than we usually will. That being said, I'm glad these players were able to go on a holiday and recharge the batteries. But our game against Palace is only 3 weeks away now. I think maybe even less. I think it's 17th of August, if I'm not mistaken. So these games against Leverkusen and Milan are almost our final test to see if we're ready for the start of the Premier League season. Like you mentioned, all the players will be returning. I think a lot of the Club World Cup players might not play a full part in the friendlies, but guys like Estevao, he's returning on the 4th of August back to Cobham. First time probably in the UK, first time adapting to English culture, first time adapting to English football as well. So I think those training sessions from next week are going to be so vital to him. Yeah. And it might also be make or break to see if he's ready to come into the team, play a part in the squad, or if he's the type of player that could benefit from a loan as well. And annoyingly, I think maybe Xavi Simons coming in could actually push him out the door for a loan instead. But yeah, I think I'm really excited to see him. And if he does play a part in the friendlies in beginning of August, I think he's definitely going to be the main player I'm keeping an eye on.
It's interesting because obviously a lot of clubs are playing their pre-season games now. It feels like we've done our sort of business already in terms of the fitness levels. I can't imagine. I know, 2, maybe 3 weeks is a long time for a footballer, especially at that level, but I don't think the drop-off would be as bad as, had we only had 2 or 3 pre-season games and didn't have the Club World Cup to fit into that. So, Rich Moneymakers on the YouTube Live is saying that Santos is staying and looking forward to the new season. It's hard to tell. I generally don't know. Had you told me last season we'd go in for Pedro Neto, I probably would have said no. Because it just came out of nowhere a little bit. So I can't really gauge what the owners want, what the manager wants, what the sporting directors want from this season so far. Obviously, we want to compete, but in terms of our squad, it's still too big. So we know that at least 12, I reckon 12 players, maybe 13, 14 will have to leave. Some on loan, some on permanent basis. But I'm looking forward to seeing the club back next Friday, I think it is. Is it Friday? Friday.
Yeah, 4th of August is when they're back. I think August 8th, Friday, against Leverkusen, Sunday the 10th against AC Milan. I think, like you mentioned, André Santos potentially could be like our midfielder. We know what Lavia's like with his injuries, and we also, it looks like Drewsbury Hall might be joining Fulham potentially as well. I'm just a bit weirded out because I know before the Club World Cup they said we're going to try to get all our transfer business done before the Club World Cup. Whereas everything we've kind of discussed in this podcast seems to indicate there's still a lot that's still going to happen.
TBC.
TBC is still for the remainder of the summer. So I think it's still going to be a lot of like surprises. I think Nkunku, his future's gone a bit quiet, but I think he'll be another one that departs. Jackson being linked to Newcastle, being linked to Milan, being linked to Manchester United. So keep an eye on that one. He needs to go for his future. Yeah. And realistically, I think he's third choice now behind Delap and Joao Pedro as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I also think we are still missing our marquee signing, which we can talk about another time. But I do think we haven't brought in a marquee signing. For me personally, I don't think I can call Joao Pedro or Liam Delap marquee signings or Gittins. I generally would not rule out this club going out and buy. I don't know who it is. I keep saying it all the time. People keep looking at me very strange, but I don't know who it is. But I think we're going to go in for a big signing.
I feel like a centre back could maybe be what we need if Chalobah gets sold. I think a Mark Wehi, I think, would be the kind of logical option, like Cobham developed.
Can we call him Marquee?
Well, it depends what you class as Marquee. Is it like a price tag, or is it more like the quality of the player, the kind of like
bit of both.
Aura of the player?
Bit of both. I don't know.
I think we don't do marquee signings anymore. Maybe Bar Caicedo for the price tag we signed him for. There hasn't really been a marquee signing since we used to sign the likes of Balak, Shevchenko, Deco.
Yeah, but we need
these type of guys.
If we're going to win the league, we need one.
I agree.
In my opinion, but no, Theo, thank you as always. Always a pleasure. I'm sure. I know we're going to hopefully record before the next game, the friendly game. So I'm sure we'll talk before then. But it's always a pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your week. Everyone in the chat on YouTube Live, thank you very much for being part of the live stream. If you're on the audio version of this podcast, make sure you head over to YouTube and subscribe, hit the notification bell. And until next time, we'll be back soon. Enjoy the rest of your week, however you spend it.